Hello. In this review, I'll be talking about the British 25-pounder gun howitzer from World War II, the Ordnance QF 25-pounder. This 25-pound gun howitzer was developed in the United Kingdom to better counter potential threats. I'll cover the history of its development, why it became beloved in many countries around the world, even the Germans incorporated captured guns into their arsenal, and the overall capabilities of this weapon. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click like. It helps us improve our content. Let's burn. In the United Kingdom, requirements for new artillery were introduced immediately after the end of World War I. As early as 1919, analysis began on how to improve all aspects of artillery, range, rate of fire, and power of the new weapons. The British had a successful field gun and howitzer, which were used as a basis and alternatives for developing a new weapon. In 1904, the Ordnance QF 18-pounder field gun was adopted into service. You may also see it referred to as the QF 18PDR or 18PDR QF. Similar to the subject of our discussion, there are several abbreviated naming conventions commonly used in Britain for their artillery. The caliber of the guns was designated in pounds, hence the name. The QF in the name stands for quick firing, referring to its rapid rate of fire. The gun's actual caliber was 83.4 mm. The QF 18-pounder was effective for its time and was even improved upon after the war. Particular focus was placed on upgrading the gun carriage. Several versions of different carriages were developed up until the early 1920s. This is an important point because it influenced the decision to create a new and improved gun. In its basic configuration, the QF 18-pounder could elevate and depress vertically from -4 degrees to +16 degrees, enabling it to hit targets at a maximum range of 6 kilometers. The initial muzzle velocity was 492 meters per second. The final carriage modification, introduced in 1923, allowed the gun to elevate from -5 degrees to +37 degrees, extending the maximum range to 8,600 meters. The projectile weight was 23 pounds, which played a significant role in the gun's rate of fire. Its rate of fire, shell weight, and initial muzzle velocity were commendable for the time. However, its maximum range remained a significant drawback, underscoring the need for a more advanced weapon. At the same time, the British also had another equally well-known howitzer in service, the Ordnance QF 4.5-inch, commonly referred to as the QF 4.5-inch. At the time, British artillery nomenclature distinguished between field guns and howitzers. Gun calibers were measured in pounds, while howitzer calibers were measured in inches. The QF 4.5-inch howitzer was introduced in 1908, saw successful use during World War I, and had its own clear strengths and weaknesses. The caliber of the QF 4.5-inch howitzer was 114.3 mm, making it more powerful than the Ordnance QF 18-pounder, which was a significant advantage. Additionally, it featured a vertical aiming range of -5 degrees to +45 degrees, allowing it to strike targets at a maximum range of 6,200 meters. The shell it fired weighed 35 pounds, with an initial velocity of about 300 meters per second. Its main advantage was its high elevation angle, which made it better suited for firing from concealed positions. However, while it was more powerful, it fell short in other areas when compared to the 18-pounder gun. In 1919, a new objective was set: to create a hybrid gun howitzer that would combine the strengths of both the QF 18-pounder and the QF 4.5-inch howitzer. This new weapon was to have a maximum range of 15,000 yards, approximately 13,700 meters. By 1920, this goal was further refined, with all existing performance data taken into account. To clarify, the caliber of the QF 18-pounder was equivalent to 3.3 inches. The first two proposals for the new gun howitzer were presented in 1924. Since the naming conventions at the time required that howitzers be measured in inches, the proposed designs followed suit. The first design was a 3.9-inch gun howitzer, approximately 100 mm caliber, with a fixed round ammunition type. The second design was a 4.1-inch gun howitzer with a semi-fixed round ammunition type. Despite these efforts, calculations showed that neither design could achieve the desired maximum range of 15,000 yards. Both designs also suffered from reduced rate of fire due to the heavy shells and lower initial velocities. As a result, both proposals were rejected. Work on the new gun howitzer continued. Meanwhile, Improvements were made to the carriage of the Ordnance QF 18-pounder, which provided a temporary solution to the range issue. However, even with these modifications, the 18-pounder's range remained insufficient for the desired performance specifications. Efforts to develop the new gun-howitzer persisted, as the British sought to create a weapon that could truly bridge the gap between their existing artillery systems. The next attempt to design the desired gun-howitzer came in 1928. This time, the focus shifted to a smaller caliber. A proposal was made for a 3.7-inch gun-howitzer, but this design also failed to meet the requirements. The issue lay in achieving the desired elevation angle and the target range of 15,000 yards, it's about 13,700 meters. By the early 1930s, there was growing pressure to finalize the new weapon's design. Intensive discussions were held to determine what adjustments were necessary to achieve an optimal result. One key topic was the weight of the projectile, and a consensus was reached. The projectile weight should be between 20 and 30 pounds. Realizing the original range target of 15,000 yards was unattainable under current conditions, the goal was revised downward to 11,800 yards, it's about 10,600 meters. This recalibration of expectations allowed for more feasible design solutions. Another significant factor was cost. The British Army had approximately 2,000 Ordnance QF 18-pounder guns in service, and they were unwilling to allocate excessive funds for the production of a completely new gun-howitzer. The goal was to develop a weapon that could be upgraded from the existing QF 18-pounders. This imposed a practical limit on the caliber of the new gun. The solution emerged from this constraint. Using the existing QF 18-pounder carriage, only the barrel and breech would need to be replaced. The carriage's construction allowed for a barrel with a maximum caliber of 3.45 inches, 87.4 millimeters. With this configuration, the projectile weight could be set at 25 pounds, striking a balance between range, firepower, and cost. The 3.7-inch caliber initially considered was ruled out entirely, as it would require designing a weapon from scratch rather than upgrading the 3.3-inch QF 18-pounder. By 1935, a new gun-howitzer design was adopted, and in 1937, work began on upgrading existing Ordnance QF 18-pounders to the new Ordnance QF 25-pounder standard. The upgraded guns retained the original carriage but featured a new barrel and breech, resulting in a hybrid weapon known as the QF 18 25-pounder. This designation clarified that the weapon was a transitional model, part QF 18-pounder and part QF 25-pounder. Simultaneously, work progressed on developing a dedicated QF 25-pounder gun-howitzer with its own carriage. In 1938, the British abandoned the convention of measuring howitzer calibers in inches, opting instead to use the projectile weight in pounds. The weapon became officially known as the Ordnance QF 25-pounder. By 1939, the first QF 18 25-pounders began entering British Army service. At the outbreak of World War II, the British had just over 70 of these guns in service. By 1941, more than 1,400 QF 18-pounders had been converted into QF 25-pounders. The QF 25-pounder quickly became a cornerstone of British artillery, offering a highly effective combination of range, power, and versatility, and it remained in service for many years after the war. In 1937, the second version of the Ordnance QF 25-pounder, designated Mark II, was introduced. The original version was retrospectively labeled Mark I. Unlike the Mark I, which was essentially a modernization of the QF 18-pounder, the Mark II was a completely new weapon. It featured its own dedicated carriage, a new barrel, and a new breech, making it a wholly independent design. The Mark II began entering service in 1940 and played a significant role in combat on all major fronts of World War II, including Europe and North Africa. The QF 25-pounder achieved its greatest success during operations in North Africa, where it was instrumental in halting the Italian offensive and destroying a significant number of enemy tanks. Its combination of mobility, firepower, and versatility proved invaluable in the desert warfare environment. During the Dunkirk evacuation in 1940, over 700 QF 18 25-pounder Mark I howitzers were abandoned in France. These guns were captured by the Germans, who highly valued their capabilities. The Germans gave them a new designation and employed them against Allied forces throughout the war. In total, more than 12,000 QF 25-pounder Mark II guns were produced during the war. The gun howitzer remained in British service until 1967, after which it was primarily used for ceremonial purposes, such as firing salutes, and showcased in exhibitions. The QF 25-pounder was exported to numerous countries, including Australia and Canada. In Canada, a self-propelled version was developed, mounting the gun on a Canadian tank chassis. However, this unique variant is a topic for another discussion. The last recorded combat use of the QF 25-pounder occurred during the 2003 US-led military operation in Iraq. Iraqi forces employed the gun-howitzers against American troops. Even today, the QF 25-pounder remains in limited service in some countries, though it is now primarily found in the collections of military enthusiasts and museums. This remarkable weapon had a long and storied history, proving itself as one of the most effective and versatile artillery pieces of its time. Its robust design, ease of use, and adaptability ensured its place in military history. Now, let's delve into the technical specifics of what made the QF 25-pounder so exceptional. When developing the QF 25-pounder, 3 types of carriages were specifically designed to account for the capabilities and limitations of its predecessor. For the transitional QF 18-25-pounder, however, 2 existing carriages from the QF 18-pounder were utilized. Carriage 18 PDR Mark 4P. This version featured non-split trail legs. Carriage 18 PDR Mark 5P. This version was equipped with split trail legs, which allowed for a wider range of elevation angles. For the fully redesigned QF 25-pounder Mark II, 3 carriages were developed. Carriage 25 PDR Mark III TR. This had non-split trail legs, offering limited elevation capabilities. Carriage 25 PDR Mark 4P. Modeled after the American 105mm howitzer, this version also had non-split trail legs but allowed for a greater elevation angle than the Mark III TR. Carriage 25 PDR Mark 5P. This version featured split trail legs, enabling the gun to achieve the widest range of elevation angles and improved stability. The Mark II had several distinguishing features, including circular firing platform. The gun could be mounted on a round platform, enabling 360-degree traversal, a significant advantage for targeting in any direction. However, the drawback was the time required to switch the gun from transport to combat mode. The gun weighed 1,785 kg. Overall length with carriage, 5.53 meters. Barrel length, 2.47 meters. When not mounted on the platform, the gun could traverse plus or minus 4 degrees. Mounted on the circular platform, it could rotate a full 360 degrees. Split trail carriage, Mark 5P, elevation ranged from minus 5 degrees to plus 40 degrees. Non-split trail carriages, Mark III TR and Mark 4P, elevation ranged from minus 5 degrees to plus 37.5 degrees. The gun was equipped with a hydraulic recoil brake and a hydropneumatic recuperator, ensuring stable operation. The QF 25-pounder Mark II was designed for versatility, capable of engaging targets using both indirect fire, from concealed positions, and direct fire. For aiming, the gun had 3 panoramic sights for precise targeting in indirect fire scenarios. 2 telescopic sights for direct fire. This combination of features made the QF 25-pounder Mark II a versatile and effective artillery piece, capable of handling a variety of battlefield scenarios with high efficiency. The QF 25-pounder featured a vertical sliding breech block, which was manually operated using a lever located on the right side of the breech. The gun was fired using a handle near the gunner's seat. Additionally, it was equipped with a protective shield, the upper portion of which could fold down for transport or reduced profile in combat. The gun was capable of firing 3 types of shells: high explosive fragmentation shells, armor-piercing tracer shells, smoke shells. The gun used separate loading ammunition, with the projectile and propellant charge loaded independently. The propellant charges came in 3 types, each marked differently to avoid confusion. Charge 1. Maximum range of 3,566 meters. Charge 2. Maximum range of 7,132 meters. Charge 3. Maximum range of 10,790 meters. The gun achieved an initial muzzle velocity of 532 meters per second, with a firing crew of up to 6 men, although 3 could operate it in less intense scenarios. The crew roles typically included commander, gunner, breech operator, ammunition handlers, for projectiles and charges, loader. The gun's rate of fire was 6 to 8 rounds per minute, which was considered excellent for its time. In 1942, the QF 25-pounder underwent significant upgrades. A muzzle brake was added to reduce recoil, improving stability and ease of use. A new propellant, Charge Super, was introduced, extending the maximum range to 12,253 meters. In 1943, a parachute illuminating shell was added to the gun's arsenal. This shell could light up the battlefield for 30 seconds, proving invaluable during night operations. The gun-howitzer was typically towed into position by trucks, including the British quad artillery tractor, which could carry the entire gun crew. For ammunition transport, a special trailer was used, capable of holding up to 32 shells and charges. The QF 25-pounder earned a stellar reputation during World War II. It was accurate, reliable, and easy to operate, making it a favorite among British forces and their allies. These qualities ensured its long-term use in various countries and heavily influenced subsequent artillery designs. This was the story of the Ordnance QF 25-pounder, a gun-howitzer that proved to be a true workhorse of Allied artillery. I hope you found this video both interesting and informative. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click like. That's all for today. Wishing you peace and clear skies. Bye.